Hey everybody, Christian here. I have been urged over time to start podcast or video channels or whatever, just because of certain conversations that I've had and helped other people to have. And so this is my first go at it. I don't know the tech, so it's not going to be real fancy, and it's not interactive yet. I may go live sometime, but if this is useful for you, please make a comment down below or a question or something, and just kind of let me know, because I want you all to steer how this goes. My goal in all of this is to take my own advice and quit waiting till I know everything before I do anything, because I end up doing nothing. Everybody knows something, at least a little something, and we can speak on that something and help others to understand that little something better. We all have a certain amount of light to shine, and we seem to think that if we don't have as great of a light as we think some other people have, then what good could I do? It's like, well, everybody has something to offer in this world, or the Lord wouldn't still have you here. So you can speak to that thing, and if somebody brings something else up about, well, what about this? And you don't know, it's just, oh, I don't know about that. I know about this. Well, what about all this? I don't know about that. I know about this. And I can talk about this. And then as we grow and as we learn, then we can speak to more and more things. So I just want to encourage everybody out there, you have something to say, and dialogue is so needed, as we've seen with the horrific things the last few weeks, and culminating in the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which wasn't just about him. It was about ideas. He was saying things and having dialogues, and people were listening, and some didn't like the fact that that was going on. So we need to increase the dialogue, or as he was so want to say, that when we stop talking, bad things happen. So I'm taking that as a personal challenge to get off my duff and actually say something, just in case it's useful. I'm not saying I'm an expert on anything, but I want to share, and I want to help people to have dialogue better. So to start with that, although I didn't know where to start, and that might be your problem, there's so many places to start, just start. Just start. And so I'm just starting here. I'm taking my own advice again. So I guess I would start with just some things that help people have discussions that seem to come up often, that kind of hinder things. One is, it's handy to know three basic rules of logic. At least three. There are three basic rules of logic. One is called the law of identity. Basically, it is what it is. You've heard that, right? You may have said that. It is what it is. Yeah, a thing is what a thing is. A thing cannot be something that it's not. And sometimes people talk about things and we don't even realize we're doing it. We bring up something that is an actual thing, and then we try to redefine it into some other thing or various other things, and then we wonder why we can't have a dialogue. What do you mean by that? And people use the same terms to mean different things. So the question with the law of identity, a thing is what it is, what do you mean by that? Oftentimes, I would guess maybe upwards of 80% of misunderstandings and stuff could be solved if we just knew what each other's definitions were. What do you mean by that? Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, see, I was meaning this. Or it's like, oh, you mean that? Okay, show me how you get that definition out of this thing. And then we go on a dialogue. See, a dialogue should be a large part of teaching each other. I'm not seeing things the way you're seeing it. Will you help me to see things, or try to see things the way you're seeing? Because I'm just not there. And if they're not understanding, it's like, well, can I teach you? Can I wouldn't probably say that, but can I show you where I'm coming from, so you can at least trace the dots and see if we're even talking about the same thing? The law of identity, a thing is what a thing is, regardless of what we think about it, regardless if we know anything about it, regardless if we like it or not. A thing is just a thing. It is. Reality is just reality. You may have heard other people say, and Charlie say it too, that facts don't care about your feelings. And that's true. They just are. They just are. And so we can either admit that, or we can live in an alternate reality where not great things happen. The number two law is the law of non-contradiction. So the law of identity and the law of non-contradiction. What does that mean? It means basically nothing can be and both not be at the same time. Now, some of these are related, and don't worry about the formality of it. Just if something comes along that you can put in your pocket, just do that. But the law of non-contradiction, nothing can be both be and not be. Or you might say it like, nothing can both be true and not true at the same time, in the same way or in the same sense. It's either true or it's not true. And we'll talk in another one about the three different concepts of true. And people talk about truth, we may not even realize it, but we have at least three ways of using that word truth. And again, we need to know what we're talking about, because the thing, truth claim, is what it is, and we need to know what that is. So the law of identity, it is what it is. Law of non-contradiction, something can't both be true and not true at the same time, in the same way, or in the same sense. See, because nothing can be and both not be. Something cannot exist and both not exist. Some people talk about religions. I had a discussion earlier this week. Well, no religions are true. And I thought, wow. And I offered to this person, like, that sounds awfully arrogant. It seems like you know everything about every religion on the one hand. And number two, if all the religions are false, that means none of them are true, which means you're the one that knows true better than all these other people. Again, sounds a bit arrogant. That's probably not what you meant, but help me get there. And some religions say, yes, a God exists. Other religions, God does not exist. They both can't be wrong, just like they both can't be right. And there's different views of God. There's a monotheistic God, a singularity of being in some. Some have a Trinity Christian, 3 persons in one being, Christianity. Others, well, the gods are former humans who became exalted and divine, Mormonism. There's all these, Hinduism, millions of gods. So if they're all so contradictory, how can they all be wrong? And how can they all be right? Law of non-contradiction, can't be and not be. Law of identity, law of non-contradiction, and law of the excluded middle. Now this will have nuance because there are some things where there's middle, but generally speaking, between being and non-being, there's not a middle. A thing is either true or it's not true. It can't be kind of true unless we get into some nuance of what one means by true or something. There's no apples don't exist, and at the same time, apples don't exist. But in the middle, there's no middle. Like, let's say for the sake of the Charlie Kirk thing, political assassination is okay. That's an idea. Political assassination is not okay. That's an idea. Well, what's in the middle? Even if it's a middle, political assassination is okay whenever you want to do it, all the time, or political assassination is never okay, you should never do it. What's the middle? That some political assassinations are okay? Well, that's not really a middle, that's just over here. That's still not in the middle. So there are certain things where there's not a middle ground. And the assumption that the middle ground is always where the truth is, that's a biased assumption. Again, there's not always a middle. But if people say that, then you can ask them, okay, what would be the middle name? Or what would be the middle path that you mean? Because I'm not seeing it. Again, go into servant spirit, go into learning spirit, but search for the truth. Because only in truth is there real freedom. Only in truth is there real, genuine healing possible. If it's a surface level truism, eventually that's going to fall apart. And again, we need to learn how to dialogue. We need to be willing to dialogue and not take offense. Not be angry just because someone disagrees with what we're saying. There's a vast difference between hate speech and speech that one hates. Now, can somebody hate something that is hate speech? Well, sure, but just because one hates a certain amount of kind of speaking doesn't mean that that person is speaking hate. And again, definitions. It is what it is. Hate speech is a thing. But just because you think it's a thing doesn't mean it is a thing. Have you ever thought yourself was brilliant? I've thought I was brilliant. But it was just a feeling. Again, the thing is what it is, regardless of what we think about it. Law of identity. So law of identity, it is what it is. Law of non-contradiction, something can't be both true and not true at the same time, in the same way. A thing cannot be and not be at the same time. And 3, the law of the excluded middle. Between being and non-being, or existing as an idea or concept and not existing, there's not a middle in there. So that's just the beginning of maybe how to have dialogues better. And questions are great. You're not accusing people. If they say something at you, you could ask them a question back like, well, what do you have a question? What do you mean by that? That kind of thing. But we need to make arguments. We need to make arguments in dialogue. I don't mean argument meaning verbal fighting. That's kind of what that word has come to mean. But it doesn't mean verbal fighting. It means a series of premises, a series of claims that equal a conclusion. So this truth claim, premise A, has to kind of lean into or grow forth or issue forth premise B, truth claim B, and so on, however many there are. But then you have this claim leading to this claim, and put those two together and get equals. For example, here's a lame argument. There are more deaths, shooting deaths, more violent deaths, knife deaths, more murders in July in the United States than any other month. I'm just making that up. I don't know if that's true. Okay, so in July, there's more murders than any other month. Okay, premise number 2. More ice cream is sold in July in the United States than any other month. Therefore, ice cream causes people to murder each other. Now, of course, that's ridiculous, but that is an argument. It's a series of premises which issue forth in a conclusion. But to be a sound argument, the premises need to be true, and they need to issue forth from one another, and the conclusion has to be the equals. It has to come from both of those things. So how does one see a hole in our argument or in somebody else's argument to help seek the truth? Again, this is not about winning an argument. This is about reaching hearts. This is about bringing truth and light so that people can be well informed and be free. So premise A has to be true, B has to be true, and come from B, and then equals over here, okay? The way that we spot errors is if one of the premises is not true, and you can demonstrate that it's not true or probably not true. It can be true or not probably true. Then their argument falls apart because there's no equation. A plus B equals C. There's no A. And B can't equal C because B is what it is and C is what it is. So you can disprove it. Or you can say B doesn't flow from A. B has to flow from A. So you can show how that doesn't work or probably doesn't work. And then you could go to the conclusion, well, that conclusion obviously isn't true. Anyway, a lot of this just to say I want to help encourage people to think well. Again, not that I'm the authority on that, but to think well. I've made a lot of these mistakes and will continue to make a lot of mistakes. But help people think well. And I want to encourage you to speak on what you know. People need the light that you have. You're not here for nothing. And if we disagree, that's fine. That's a great place to start. But disagreement is just the beginning of a conversation. And it is a conversation. So be encouraged, be the light out there, think well, and make a comment or whatever so I know what would be useful for anybody who happens to be listening to this. Anyway, again, this is Christian, and I'll see you next time.